Fiat you've called time theft technology. And I guess Bitcoin would be the opposite of that, right? Time preservation or something technology. And so the buildings we were building on a sound money standard, right? When we have time preservation technology, they actually they're intergenerational things, right? The cathedrals are often cited as this example. Yeah. That, the bricklayer on a cathedral knew he was never going to sit in that cathedral. Yeah. But he didn't care, right? His time preference was such that, it's fine if his grandchildren can sit there or whatever it may be. But then we get into this industrialization, commodification of time, and then the proverbial pendulum swings too far the other direction, right? That we did actually increase our ability to interoperate and have more efficiency in our economies. All of these things are true. We did get a benefit, but that pendulum went too far, right? And now it's just, what's the cheapest? I don't know. There's got to be a middle ground here, right? Like we can't maybe we can just build things that are for beauty and artistic purposes, but we also want to get this economic benefit that we've enjoyed since the commodification of time. So is Bitcoin somewhere in the middle, or how do you look at these two extremes?
I mean, there's two things that come to mind there. One is it's a different economic calculus when money is appreciating. So there will be an intrinsic expectation of the highest quality. If you're going to do something, then every economic actor has to make the decision of whether they will spend their money on it or just keep it, which we do not have the option to do now. So we actually have to do the opposite. So you might as well do something with your money, build something and flip it. Whereas now then the competition is to deliver the best thing ever. And it could be like the refrigerator that never breaks, or the building that 1,000 years from now, people will be like, holy cow, they built that in 2032. And then, I think the other thing is so this is where the idea of like Bitcoin as a timekeeper makes this possible, because Bitcoin doesn't need to tell us when we need to meet our friends at a restaurant, but Bitcoin is its own clock that cannot be fucked with. So you can't accelerate a block, and some might even take an hour, right? Like a Bitcoin block is like Gandalf. It will arrive exactly when it's meant to. But we can understand this, and we can know roughly when a difficulty adjustment is coming or a having. And it will give us a long-term way to think as a society about the value of money in the future, which should enable us to reimagine how we go about making long-term decisions and planning for tomorrow. So I think these things hopefully are gradual, but this is how I think of the Bitcoin world tomorrow, where we've really been rid of this problem of disintegrating money. And as a byproduct of that, like architects should just start dreaming different things because they won't have the same constraints and realities. And this is why, again, back to George Woodcock, this time thing is made up. And there was a previous era before that invention where things were different, and we built things that were different. And the Duomo in Milan is like arguably the most beautiful building in the world. And it was started before the clock was invented.
Yeah. Have you thought much about what the economics looked like during that time period? Like I was in Prague, and in Prague, I haven't done a lot of traveling, but it was very clear to me the difference in the ancient architecture or the hard money standard architecture versus the fiat stuff. It was just like you're walking through Prague and it's like there's some glass box and here's this work of art. Do you know what's going through the minds of the people at the time when they built that? And, I've heard you speak about Tartaria, which is a fascinating rabbit hole in itself. Speaking of time, is our whole history potentially that we're all kind of agreeing to not accurate and factual? Because, you look at these cathedrals and it's like, are you kidding me? People sat there with hammers and chisels and built this stuff in between trying to not die from dysentery and making it back to and from their shack where they're eating bread. Like, I struggle with it.
There are some really interesting theories about there because there are some loose ends to how these buildings were built that really doesn't make sense. And the notion that people could build buildings like that and hadn't yet thought of how to build a toilet is one of those things that doesn't hold a ton of water. And the historical narratives of the Dark Ages, there are even historians that question whether or not the Dark Ages actually happened in the way that we've been taught. I mean, I think that it's possible that we've been told a lot of things that are not true, but entirely not true. And that's probably even true of really recent stuff.
Yeah, the more I think about things like that, or in like the pyramids and whatever, it just makes me just get to a place where I'm like, I don't know what's true at all. The thing that I believe the most in is that there is, with a high level of probability, never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoin. Like that seems to be like the most certain thing, at least in my own personal world and ideology, that like I can tether myself to. Aside from that, it kind of feels like, I don't even know. Is the world flat? I guess I'm open to the notion that it's not a globe, which is crazy to say. Like, but it's just, the whole thing's fishy.
It is. I mean, ideas to really disseminate, they need to be simple enough that people can grab onto them. I think what you said is really beautiful, because we're not likely to get to a place where the average person really understands the inner workings or the economics of Bitcoin. But I think that, it's like an inception for an idea to take hold. It just has to be boiled down to the most base component of the idea. And with that, it can take root. And
it's like Inception.
Yeah.
The movie Inception, where they're trying to plant the idea in someone's dreamscape, but you had to get the most basic form of the idea for the seed to germinate.
Exactly. 21 million.
Yeah.
Fixed supply.
And that's yes, but then it's like, I feel like that's hard for normies to grok. It's like, well, what do you mean 20? Like, how does that relate to all these other things?
I mean, excuse me. I think that we're in a process where they are observing everything else. So the average person who doesn't have any conception of Bitcoin does know that life is getting harder and more disposable all the time. And I like to think that it's almost like breaking a fever, where everybody has their own limit, where they start to question like whether or not fundamentally there's actually something flawed in how things are going. I feel like everybody has that point in them. It's just that a lot of people may be capable of sustaining a lot higher temperature in the boiling water than some of us who are here now.
But wouldn't a lot of these problems exist if the central banking apparatus that I think we needed to have to get gold to scale, to build the world that we have today, if it wasn't abused in the level in which it was, and they weren't debasing the currency at such a fast rate, we're still struggling with entropy. There's no single place where you can put your stored up time and energy that's not losing some of it. You got the thermodynamics or entropy, dilution, maintenance cost with real estate. So it's almost this Prometheus moment with Bitcoin where it's like, oh, now I have this vessel that is not leaking my time and energy. We would be struggling with some level of confusion without that fixed monetary unit to store our time and energy in, even if fiat wasn't being abused at the level in which it is.
Yeah, I really am a fan of the term entropy. When talking about Bitcoin, I think we want to talk about it in monetary terms, and because we are thinking about it as money, which it is. But entropy more accurately describes the problem that Bitcoin is solving, in my opinion. Because like in thermodynamics, it refers to sort of energy in a closed system that is not able to perform the function that it was meant to. And in information theory, entropy is related to the amount of verbiage that's required to describe the state of a system, which I can't think of as a more accurate way to describe our current financial system, which has gotten ridiculously convoluted because of the degree of entropy, right? This is a monetary siphoning that's going on as a result of a structural inefficiency of how the money system works. So I think to answer Bitcoin is like a 0 to 1 fix for that thing, and all that's really required is enough people understand that original thing is a problem. Because government media has done such a great job branding inflation as like a natural phenomenon that is some kind of lubricant that is beneficial for economies. And I think the average person would sort of tell you that, like, no, we need 2-3%, whatever the number is, because without it, everything would stop working, everything will collapse. And that's just what people have been told. And
yeah, even the term itself, inflation, right? It's euphemistic. Obviously, if you have assets. You want them to inflate, right? To grow bigger. That's the general idea in most economics, but I find it to be a very misleading term when it comes to money, because the thing that really matters with money is your purchasing power. And so when your purchasing power is being inflated away, you're actually being debased or siphoned from, as you said. So I think even the selection of that term, inflation, was this weird language game to get people to normalize it and accept it.